Hi, hello, and welcome to yet another Expat. This is episode 60. What a number to reach, what a milestone to celebrate. 60, a great number. The 60th anniversary is called the Diamond Jubilee. It's a big milestone for monarchs and marriages. So I remember it from Queen Elizabeth. She had her 60th anniversary as a queen. She had her Diamond Jubilee. And I thought that the Diamond Jubilee is what she wears on her crown, to be honest. But that's a different diamond. A huge diamond stolen or given by the Mahatuli Singh in 1849 when the UK was busy in India. And when the queen died, they asked for their diamond back. It's a huge diamond. It's called the Kohinoor, and it's the biggest diamond ever. I think it's 108 carats. That would solve a lot of problems. And this diamond has a very controversial history. A lot of the Indian governments have been asking to take the diamond back ever since India got its independence in 1947. But the British government says the ownership of this huge diamond is non-negotiable, and even after Queen Elizabeth's death, it hasn't been returned back. But that is a diamond, and the 60th episode, I think I should name it the Diamond Jubilee for making it this far. 60 is an interesting number. The Babylonians had a base 60 system. Basically means that they count things not by 10 like we do, but by 60s. And this is something that is very useful in astronomy and complex calculations, especially before calculators, because 60 is highly divisible. It's divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, by 10, by 12, by 15, by 20, by 30. And this is why the day has 24 hours, by the way, 60 minutes per hour and 60 seconds per minute. This is a direct legacy of the Babylonian sexagesimal math, the base 60 math. We preserved it as Greeks, and later Islamic scholars passed it on to modern Western timekeeping. So this is one place where the base 60 remains, as well as angles. You know, a circle is 360 degrees because the Babylonians noticed that the sun's movement across the sky takes about 360 days. So what did they do? They divided a circle into 360 degrees, and this is why all of this somehow makes sense. There are also centipedes that have 60 legs, and these are all the facts I could find about the number 60 to share and celebrate. Okay. I hope, as always, that you're doing well, that you're enjoying this summery weather for as long as it lasts, whether it is 37 degrees in Berlin and the UK where everyone is melting, or crazy thunderstorms and floods in Texas and China. You know we're now cooked already because the planet never hit the target to stop the rise of temperature. It has risen by 1.6 degrees. That brings a lot of flooding, so build your house up on a cliff. In more random news, in my balcony we have some wildflowers blossoming, and they are attracting bees. And somehow this is giving me a great push of dopamine or serotonin every time I go out in the tiny balcony to have a tiny breakfast after fighting off the pigeons that are claiming my life. If you have any space there in the outside and you have different plants that maybe give you aesthetic pleasure, consider putting some wildflowers, because looking at the bees coming over and getting so busy pollinating and doing their thing is lovely. And by the way, they also are so friendly. We're eating right next to the flowers, right next to them. They just come and go. They don't care. They're doing their things. And it feels really nice for our tiny pot to be a small stop, a pit stop for these bees. So this is one thing in the balcony news. The pigeons are still winning, claiming the space. We have this, what was his name? This Sisyphus task, and I'm not referring to tasks happening at the club Sisyphus, but the guy that was rolling that rock up the cliff only for the rock to fall back down. This is the situation with the pigeons, but the great plan of getting a crow is progressing. There's still the befriend the crow at work happening, but now I've started putting peanuts in the window, and I've never seen the crow come, but I have seen the peanuts disappear. And it's only crow that can eat these peanuts because they are the ones with the shell, the classic peanuts, the one that Disney Goofy would eat, and he would become super goofy if you were into comics. So the crow is somewhere out there. I will slowly build that platform in the balcony, making it a proper landing space. But it seems that we are slowly establishing the fact that there is food at the window, so let's see how that goes. But I want to share with you something that happened a few days ago, and it's probably one of the worst stories of luck, considering myself and travels. There have been some travel stories before, some airport stuff, some plane stuff, but here comes one more, just to see how I guess I got karma striking back at me. So it all started with a thing at work. I was asked if I want to join a panel, and for that I would have to go to London. But as you know, life with a baby is complicated, and I just got back to work full time, meaning that my partner is taking much more of the load. So I checked in with her. Hey, there's this panel in London. Would be cool if I go. I can make it in and out very quickly. I can arrive on evening one day, do the thing in the morning the next day, and then fly back. So she said, okay, yeah, let's do it. Now, first things first, I flew with EasyJet, and I put the random seat allocation because even though our company is paying, I didn't feel the expense of paying for choosing your seat was necessary, which is true on 98% of the time. And I say 98 because there are exactly 2 seats in a plane that if I knew I'm getting them, I would have paid for a different seat. And those 2 seats are the last row at the back of the plane, the seat that is next to the aisle. So on the last row, 2 seats are there right next to the aisle. And this seat 30D in my take, or C, I don't remember, it's the worst seat you can have because you're right next to the toilet, which means that as soon as the flight starts, and let me tell you, I was going to London from Berlin, so this is a flight full of Germans and Brits. So you can imagine that they like to drink some beers, and beer makes you pee. So what happens in these seats is that you spend the entirety of your flight having people wait in line next to you while they're waiting to go pee. They're looking at you because they have nothing better to look at, and you're just there silent, observing entertainment while they wait. Now for you, this means that you always need to put your legs in, you always need to make sure you don't get bumped, but it also means that that door of the toilet always opens and closes, and you can guess how unpleasant this can be for the nose and for the ears. So you're just stuck there. It almost feels like you're working as a welcome person at a club, or you know these people sometimes that they are sitting right next to the toilet and they have a little jar for you to put tips in. It almost feels like you are that person. You can see the faces of people before and after the relief. You can see them progress in the queue, make friends, and yeah, that seat just sucks. Let's just say that. So I go and I have this 30D seat and I'm thinking, oh my God, how unlucky can I be? Thank you very much. I make a story on Instagram saying that this is the absolute horror of random seat allocation. And as I sit down thinking, what a way to start, a woman approaches me and says, would you like to change seats with me? I'm thinking, is there a hidden camera? Is this a joke? You want to change seats with me? Turns out that she also had random allocation and their children are right next to me. So I gladly accept and I take a window seat at row 20-something, away from the toilet, away from the noise and the smell and everything. And I'm thinking, wow, ask and you shall receive. The moment I pressed share on my nagging, complaining little story on Instagram about the seat I had, I was given a brand new seat. And that felt like the beginning of a great journey. I land and I arrive at my hotel that I had booked through booking.com. And here's my advice for everyone traveling to London. If you're booking something that costs 150 euros or less, you're going to have a terrible time. The photos are all AI. Things in the center of London are much more expensive. There is no way you're getting a good deal if you're paying no more than 150 euros. And I stayed under budget. The budget was 210. And I booked at 150 because it looked like a cozy little hotel close to the venue. Everything was decaying, let's say. Do you remember there was this Willy Wonka exhibition, I think in the UK, where the advertisements were showing this crazy 3D immersive Willy Wonka Charlie Chocolate Factory experience, and then the kids went there paying a high ticket only to find out a warehouse that someone had printed out some posters and hired some actors who didn't know what they were saying. So it was a little bit of the same experience because I arrived there and it felt like a hotel that, if you have seen BoJack Horseman, and you know he has this guy as a sidekick who always tries to do business endeavors and ends up creating some very questionable companies that barely stitch everything together with duct tape. It felt a bit like this. So that was surprise number one. My bedroom, if you can call it that, had 20 mosquitoes in, and it was the first time I complained. They gave me another room. Everything smelled like fresh paint, and I could still see some signs of mold in the wall, just a little bit of black mold. But this was okay. I'm still enjoying the trip. I do the HR panel situation, and then it's time for me coming back. As I promised to my wife and child, I am returning. So I take the train and I go to the Gatwick airport. By the way, this thing with London, I get it that London is huge, but they only have one real airport inside London. The other 3 or 4 are all 2 hours, 1.5 hours away. Doesn't even count as London if you need to travel 2 hours. But anyway, I go to the Gatwick airport. I'm ready to go back. It feels like a good win, quick in and out. I even met my sister in London because out of pure chance, she happened to be there for work as well. So we had a nice night together connecting, sending a very confusing selfie to our parents. But I go to Gatwick to leave. Now, as I go to the airport, I have received a message that my flight will be delayed. I communicated to my girlfriend, not the worst thing that can happen, delays happen, small delays. And I go in, I will go to scan my boarding pass in the security, and I get an error. And this doesn't look good. And I ask a person, hey, what is this? I know my flight is delayed, but... And then she says, oh, I think your flight might be cancelled. You should go downstairs to the EasyJet people. Now I go downstairs in the Gatwick airport, and this is like the EasyJet universe. It feels like these low-cost companies have almost claimed the airports. The Stansted in the north is completely run by Ryanair, and it seems the Gatwick at the south is predominantly run by EasyJet. So I go downstairs, and there is pure chaos. People are flocking in left and right, circling the EasyJet people. So I go to one and say, hey, what is happening? And he says, oh, there are many cancelled flights because France has a strike. I say, yeah, but this is the UK, and I go to Germany. Yeah, but because France has a strike, the neighboring countries to France are also experiencing problems, so Germany is cancelling some flights as well. Now at this point I start panicking. I write my girlfriend, oh, I think the flight is cancelled. I ask the person, can you get me on another flight? He says, I cannot do anything. You need to wait for the app to update, and you do everything through the app. So here I am waiting and refreshing the app together with 400 different people. At the same time, trying to let work know that I also have this problem. At some point, the app does say that the flights are cancelled and click here. By the time I clicked, there was no available flight. Now mind, this was Thursday. I was supposed to be home at Thursday. There are no available flights for Friday. There are no available flights for Saturday. There are no available flights for Sunday. No, the first available ones were for Sunday, which is, it's a huge difference having left home on a Tuesday, saying I come back on a Thursday, than leaving on Tuesday and coming back on a Sunday. Like it's way too many days to leave my girlfriend completely alone with the baby. So I'm starting to really try to solve it. I go to these different EasyJet agents. I play the card. I have a baby. I need to go home, find a way to take me home. And after spending 2 hours there of completely wasting my time, all the flights were getting booked. And they told me, you either book with EasyJet for Sunday for free, and we give you a hotel, or we cannot do anything for you. If you find another flight with another airline, we don't even give you a hotel. You need to figure things out yourself. Now, if you have a flight cancelled, if you select to agree with what they're offering you, so if I were to take that alternative flight and stay at a hotel, you are not entitled to compensation because you're not. And as I said, Sunday was way too much for me, so I decide to look in a completely different airport. I look at Stansted, which is almost 3 hours away. It's at the other side of the map. And I find one flight for the next day in the evening, which was the fastest thing I could get. So I start on this journey. I book that flight. I book a hotel right next to the airport. And I start taking 4 different trains, traveling 3 hours to go from the airport back to London, to another train, to the other airport, take a bus from that airport, go to the hotel. I think I arrived after midnight. But I say, okay, at least things are sorted. At least now I have my flight to go back. The next day I go to the airport thinking this is it, it's happening. I can finally leave. I scan my boarding pass, it works. And as I'm going through the gate, the alarms of the airport start going off. I was in a Boots in a store just getting a sandwich and a juice. And as I'm at the cashier, the automated one, clicking on the different things to pay, a voice starts saying that the fire alarm has been activated and you need to evacuate immediately. And I'm thinking, oh, this store has some sort of problem. I can still just check out and leave. And then I realize it's not coming from the store's speakers. It's coming from the entire airport. And I see everyone just starting to very quickly walk. No one was running, but everyone was walking very quickly and just getting the hell out of there. Now, this is a moment I still regret. I was at the checkout page. I was one click away from paying with my card. The speakers were very urgently saying, stop what you're doing and move. So I could have just grabbed that sandwich for free and leave and stick it to the system. But no, me, the little slave of capitalism, I stayed extra 5 seconds risking my life just so that I can click and pay with my card at that Boots cashier. This is probably the lowest moment I've had. I'm not forgiving myself. I could have totally played it out, looked panic, start walking. If they ever come to me, I would just say, hey, I didn't understand what was happening. The sirens were going on. But anyway, everyone is rushing for their lives and little loser Hermes is making sure to pay £6.99 for a freaking sandwich. And I start walking with everyone else and all the stores of the airport are closing so fast. I think they had some sort of evacuation plan they had done before. And the speakers keep saying, in many different languages, that the fire alarm has been activated. You need to keep on moving and people will tell you where to go. No one told us where to go. But we were like a flock of sheep. We were all kind of going in this one direction, which felt good. I thought, yeah, this is, I just follow. That's what you do at that point. The crowd mentality really kicked in. And we kept moving and moving and moving until we reached at a place where the announcement was saying there is a fire alarm at a different area of the airport. This area is okay. You can stay here. And I was just thinking, what is this? The last smile of luck was when that woman asked me to change seats. Ever since then, my flights are cancelled. I've been traveling 2 days across London with trains. I finally get a way out, which I found myself. No one helped me from all these useless EasyJet people. And now the airport is on fire. Can I please just go? And whatever was burning stopped burning. The airport didn't burn down. I made it alive. The flight got delayed again, but not cancelled. So that was okay. And very physically defeated. I had selected a seat at that flight, by the way. I just paid that extra because I did. I arrived at Berlin around midnight. I went to the train station, waited for my train, only to realize that the trains are not going. And at that point, I had accepted my fate. It almost felt like this was what should have happened. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. When I saw that trains are not going, I just thought, yeah, I guess this makes sense. So I just accepted my luck not working. I found a way with other trains and connections to make it back home. And I think after this, it will take some time for me to agree for a next trip. Now here's a question to all of you. When you fly, you will probably notice that when the plane starts landing, the stewardesses, air hostess, the people working for the plane, they start going seat by seat, making sure that your seatbelt is fastened, okay. But then they ask everyone to open their windows. And they do it in a very strict manner. They look at you and they say, hey, this needs to be up. Have you ever wondered why? Why do they make us open every single window? Doesn't it feel like some sort of airline fetishism? They get to write the rules, so they get to enforce whatever they want? Why should we, all of us, open the windows when we land? If you've wondered, wonder no more. They don't tell you, but I will. You're supposed to open the window shades during takeoff and landing for safety and emergency preparedness reasons. It's not a kink that they have. Basically, if everyone has the windows open, then everyone can see outside in case of an emergency. So if an engine catches fire, if there is debris on the runway or any other danger, visibility helps assess the safest side to evacuate from. Which is a little bit like, you expect me? If your jet engine has fire, I would hope that you have a system that can tell you there is fire. If my body elevates the temperature, I have my phone will tell me from my watch. Why make me do your work? Will I see debris on the runway? And what am I going to do? Shout to the pilot? Take a left turn? It's just so annoying when other people make you do their job. But yes, it's for situational awareness. In a case of emergency, there will be more eyes looking at what's happening, which is better awareness. Passengers can spot potential hazards and alert the crew. It's a smart safety protocol, not a fetish. It's just a way to make us complicit for their own responsibilities. Exactly like the recycling campaigns work from the biggest polluters of the world that try to give equal responsibility to us and them. They're not reducing any of their millions of tons of wastes, but they make us feel guilty if we don't separate two things together and put them in recycling. Which I do because I'm in Germany and it's the national sport, but I'm just saying. So I'll cut it here. This was just me nagging about my luck with airports, trains, travels, and all the rest. I think the safest thing to do is keep riding my bicycle, and this is what I will do. Thank you for tuning in. Plant some wildflowers, keep hydrated, and I'll see you next week. Ciao!